Welcome back to the Founder Shop Talk. I'm Abdalla Imam, GP at Indy Ventures. And today I have got Zack Farris with me. Zack is a four-time founder out of Fort Worth, Texas, and the CEO of LendlyX, a company using AI to detect fraud in renovation lending. And if you have never thought about what happens between a contractor submitting photos of completed work and a lender releasing the money, that's exactly where he's building and trying to fix big problems. Very excited about this one. So let's dive in. So hi, Zack. How are you? Thank you for joining me today. If you were at a dinner party and someone asked you who you are, what you do, how would you answer that and be honest?
Yeah, no, so I would just say, hey, my name's Zack Farris. I'm the CEO at LendlyX, and I build software and, detect problems before they happen.
Okay, so let's maybe pretend that I know nothing about like lending, how the lending industry or the process works. Like, how did you know about it and what you're trying to solve with LendlyX?
Yeah. So if you don't know anything about lending, let's say, I'm sure you're familiar with remodeling a house, right? So I got into this because, my grandmother passed away. She left some properties to the family, and some of them need to be remodeled. And so I started doing research and came across hard money lenders, and I was like, what in the heck is hard money lending? And so I looked into that, and then what it is it's different than going to Wells Fargo or a JP Morgan Chase to get a mortgage for a new house, right? It's a short-term loan that a person would get with the reason or the purpose to remodel a home and then turn around and sell it. Okay. And so essentially what we do, when we're going into that is, well, we've determined that there's a lot of room for error and fraud that could happen during that transaction between a borrower and a lender of giving that money, whether that's when the borrower's sending bank statements, invoices from contractors, whether they're taking photos of the property and uploading them to the database that the lender's requesting. There's so many different ways, especially with this rise of AI. I could literally just go take a picture in my backyard now and say, hey, ChatGPT, create my backyard with a fireplace and a whole entertainment section and a kitchen. And it will literally do the exact picture, which is scary. And so that's really what led me to build this software that helps detect these sort of problems before they become an issue down the line after the loan has already been funded. And then the lender is scrambling, trying to say, hey, what the heck just happened? I lost all this money now.
That's really great. Thank you for sharing that.
Yeah.
Like, was there a specific moment where you like, okay, there is a pain here, or I feel the pain in this process and I have to go build something to fix that pain?
Yeah, man. So I think for me, it was when I was actually getting ready to remodel a home myself. And I just contacted the hard money lender and he's like, yeah, just send me photos of the property. I sent it to him like within 10 minutes. He's like, looks good. Let's go ahead and move forward. And was ready, like sent me all this stuff to, hey, give me your wiring information and they'll send you the money. And I'm like, dude, in 10 minutes, you were able to look at those pictures. And what did you just look at? Like the condition of the home. You didn't even like verify that's the actual property. You didn't look at like, hey, was this the actual address of the home? The condition of the home? Like there were so many different things running through my mind that just made my head scramble. And I'm like, man, if this is an issue with this guy, like imagine all the other lenders who might be doing business like this. And after doing tons of interviews with a lot of hard money lenders, especially your mom and pop and people who do 25 loans a year or, 50 to 100, they do things like that. They manually review items and they're just happy to get a deal done because they're getting paid, right? So that's really the moment that stuck out to me.
Absolutely. And just curious about also the idea itself, like as a founder and your previous experience as a previous founder as well. The idea usually you start with, it changes over time. So curious about how the idea started, or what did you start building in the beginning and versus what actually became and what you have now as LendlyX offering and service?
Yeah. So great question. So really it started as I was just playing in ChatGPT and I realized I could do that picture so easily. And I was like, this is insane. I was like, if there's no way to detect, that this isn't a real image of the backyard, I wonder if other businesses are having this issue. And so I'm just, learned how to program and stuff years ago. And then with vibe coding, this made everything just 100 times easier. So I started just kind of building software and doing some algorithms and testing on the backside. And so really it just kind of evolved, and the idea is, hey, let's just detect photos that have been manipulated. That was kind of like my first idea. Let's test this and say, hey, like, can I find out where the GPS location was from the phone where I took this photo? Can I get the EXIF metadata and like get the type of device it was taken with? Can I get like all the other metadata that goes into the picture whenever I take it? And, got all that started. And then I got to talking to more and more lenders, and like, they're like, yeah, that's a cool idea. That's cool. But really where they would see a lot more value is by being able to detect bank statements or contractor invoices that have been kind of edited from the borrower so they could get more money on the backside. So for example, a contractor does all the work for $20,000. The borrower comes back, edits the PDF for $35,000 so they can make $15,000 in profit from that. And they'll submit that draw request to the lender for, hey, $35,000 contractor, here's the invoice. And they're like, okay, well, here's the invoice. Cool. And the borrower actually made 15 grand on that. And so yes, there are other platforms out there like Plaid that could eliminate, because it'll attach straight to the bank account. But your smaller mom and pop or mid-market accounts or mid-market lenders cannot afford Plaid when you're paying 15, 20 grand a month. And so that's why I targeted this specifically to say, hey, like, let's develop something that can detect photos, videos, documents, invoices, all the different phases. And that's kind of what it's evolved to. So one little idea of just detecting manipulated photos turned into all these other different features.
It turned into a platform from A to Z. I think that's really awesome. Just curious about this process that you went through. Like, and as a previous founder myself, I know you get this moment sometime that you almost give up on what you're building. So I'm curious if you can share with me some of these moments, like what happened, what made you feel like maybe you shouldn't build it, but also how did you fix it and got back and build it and got what you got at the moment?
Yeah. I mean, as a entrepreneur and founder, man, you have doubts that constantly come into your mind, especially when you have a family and a spouse and you're trying to provide for. There's all the doubt that creep in, and probably fights or arguments that happen, over finances or business or, quality time together. There's just all those doubts that come to mind. So what I would say to that is, it's just that perseverance that I have. Like, this is what I'm meant to do, and I'm going to go and just keep on building until I figure something out. Whether I got to talk to 1,000 different people to figure out, hey, is this the right type of solution that they're looking for? Would this even be beneficial? That's just something I really dig into every single day to remind myself, hey, what I am doing is making a difference and will make a difference. And so it's about having that mindset. And I really think, and I'm sure you can relate, being an entrepreneur, you have to have a certain mindset. You truly do. I was never born average. And so what I mean by that is, in school, when I was growing up, I had perfect attendance, kindergarten through 12th grade, because everything to me was a competition, right? So I had to be first at everything. I had to be first in the cafeteria line to get food. Like, I had to be first when I was racing against friends. Like, it sounds so silly, but it's helped shape me and mold me to who I am today. And I still have that competitive, exactly. So I still have that competitive drive to be the best at whatever it is that I'm doing. And it's just something some people just can't understand and they can't explain, but it's just because we're wired differently.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's very important, like the mindset and the drive for success. You said something that is very interesting to me. Like you said, I took my idea and I talked to 1,000 people who went through it or who can use it. Curious about what was the initial feedback from the people you talked to, and when did you have or feel the success moment that give you the trust of your product that this is actually solving a problem and I should be going and keep building it?
Yeah, man. So, I mean, initially, I will say, like, I got some pushback from some people who are like saying, hey, that's a cool feature, but there's other companies out there that do that. Of course, everybody's going to say that because they don't truly know what you're building or trying to build. And I said, okay, well, tell me more about that. And come to find out, whenever you start asking the right questions, like, no, that company doesn't really do that, what I'm attempting to do. And so it really goes back to, having that customer understand completely what it is that you do. So it goes back to your messaging, right? It all goes back to your messaging. And people can sit here and tell you like, oh, I don't need that. We already have something. We have another company that has this, but like, but do they? But do they? You know? And so by talking to different lenders, I just saw kind of a pattern. Everybody has they have something that they're using, or they're saying, hey, that's cool. That happens to other people. That's not going to happen to me. But when you're detecting fraud, which is what we're doing through this platform, it's important. And I explain the importance to the customers, like, hey, you need to set your foundation. Just like before you started this business in lending, you had your loan origination software, right? You have all these workflows set up. Well, if you don't have the layer for detection of any kind of fraud for every step of the phase, you're opening yourself up for failure at some point in that phase. And a lot of people don't see it like that. And so I would say that was the biggest like kind of aha moment for me is if we can embed this at every single phase in the loan process, it's a huge win for us. And then the customers will start to realize like, hey, I don't need a Plaid or a FinCity or something to directly do bank statements. I could use something that's a little more affordable. Not to say that Plaid or FinCity or any of these other companies are bad. They're fantastic and they're solving a very unique problem. But this is just another solution for people to think about.
Yeah, it feels also to me like a fraud is that typically it's like a con. So you don't really know it or feel it until it actually happens. So maybe these companies don't realize it is happening, or they don't know how to, they have the problem to fix it. Which I really like also your product and what you're building, because it does solve a really good problem. Something also you mentioned that I think are really worth reiterating is at least from the startup that we talked to and the founders, like there's always this opportunity when you see teams like, for example, or your example, the lending companies doing work around to try and find the bad images or the cons or the frauds. That workaround is usually a product or a feature, and that's what you're, at least from what I'm understanding, you're trying to build, so you don't have to do that workaround and just use one tool or feature to do it. Which I think it's a really great approach to what you're trying to build as well.
Exactly. So, there are workarounds to doing so many things. And I think one of the things that makes us unique is we'll have the lender send them a secured link to where the borrower actually has to click on, and they're logging into our portal. They don't need a login, anything, but they're agreeing to essentially give us access to their device, because we're going to capture their GPS location. We're going to get their exit metadata, which is basically everything on their device. They're giving us permission for that. And so what that does is it allows us to capture it at the source directly, because it's very easy for a programmer or a hacker, if you will, to go in and manipulate a GPS location if you're not capturing it at the source.
Yeah, absolutely. Curious about, I think you mentioned a lot about the market and the competitive or competitors. Curious if you can give us a little bit more or talk to us a little bit more about the market itself. Like if there's any number top of mind, like where LendlyX, which market it fits and how big that market is.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's a massive market when it comes to the total addressable market itself. You're looking at $34 billion. And that's specifically for the private lending sector. So your fix and flips, your DSCR loans, your bridge loans, and ground up construction. And so that doesn't even touch the expanded market at the enterprise level for mortgage loans, right? So that would be down the roadmap, is getting into that market for FHA loans and things like that, where inspections are required. And so the market that we're targeting, right, even if I'd say we call it your SAM or your SOM, right, like the service addressable market is 750 million right out the gate. Even if we capture a small percentage of that, we're doing fantastic. And so I would say that, as far as the market is concerned, 34 billion turns into probably a $1 trillion industry. And I'm not looking at the data to support that at the moment, but I know the mortgage industry itself is huge. And so you're looking at quite a massive industry that we're tapping into. And that's from just the lending sector. Plus you have the AI and software sectors kind of merging all that in together. So it's a massive market for taking.
Absolutely. I'm also curious about the location of where you are building. So we always love to talk with and support founders who are building outside of the typical tech hub, Silicon Valley, New York. Just curious about if you can share with us a little bit about your story, just building it outside of these hubs. Have you also tried to reach out or go to these places? What it will be the difference as a founder yourself he had multiple businesses? What will be the difference and how is your day to day will be differently rather being in the Silicon Valley or New York or the tech hubs that we normally know?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. Honestly, I've been out to both the Silicon Valley to network with people. There's brilliant. Honestly, there's a lot of 20-year-olds that are just absolutely brilliant. And New York is becoming a very, very popular hub for a tech hub out there as well as in Boston. Boston, Massachusetts is growing as well, and Austin, Texas, as you know.
Yes.
But I'm out here in Fort Worth, Texas, right? So I am not in a tech hub. I am actually living out here in the country. So I'm a little south of Fort Worth personally, but it's different, right? So I like being out here and it's very kind of isolated. I don't like to be in the hustle and bustle in the city, but I do like traveling to those places. But I do find it I find it a little more challenging because you're not in the big city where you can have just instant access by walking into a restaurant or a bar and seeing a bunch of tech people just sitting there. Because when I went to New York and was in those hubs in Silicon Valley, you can go to literally there's certain spots where they all congregate and they all are there. And so it is a little challenging. But honestly, I love it where I'm at. And at this point in my career, like this is my fifth company now. And after selling my last one back in 2023, I mean, I really wouldn't have it any other way. And with the evolution of, here we are on Zoom or Google Meets, it's really like you're there with the person. So if I'm working remotely here and talking to my software developers over in New York or Florida or Boston, it doesn't matter where they are. It's kind of like they're here with me. So
Absolutely. And that's something we totally believe in. And we're fully remote as well, venture firm. And we believe that this is the future. I know there's a lot of startups really keen on trying to have everyone in the same place. And there is good on that, of course. However, I would say there's also a lot of plus that comes from, like you mentioned, being remote. You're able to get a bigger pool of talent to work with outside where you are and also minimize the headcount / the office expenses or lease, etc. So totally understand. And I do also salute you for that. I do live in technically the country as well. Outside of the Bay Area, but I go sometime when I have to back to Palo Alto. So just curious about your vision for LendlyX. Like where do you see, not necessarily the end game, but where do you see LendlyX evolving and going to in the next 5 to 10 years?
Yeah. So, I mean, it's a great question. So where I see LendlyX being is really I want to be end-to-end workflow for fraud detection throughout the entire loan process. So right now we're kind of at like just in a few phases of the loan process, right? So we're in your pre-funding stage where we're verifying the property address, that the photos are accurate, the budget is accurate, and then after that deal is funded, we come what's called the draw management phase. And that's where they receive those incremental payments based on the phase of work that has been done in the remodel. So, hey, I've finished the remodeling of the floor. I'm requesting $20,000. The lender, then is going to request our link. They're going to submit photos, the borrower or the contractor submitting the photos, and basically to confirm that, hey, the work has been completed. So really, those are the two phases that we're in. But I'd like to get into, hey, whenever the borrower submits their application, I want to confirm their identity is valid. Like, hey, the borrower is who they're saying they are. Any document that they upload that the lender requests, like a income verification or, your bank documents, your tax returns, whatever that document is going to be, we want to be able to verify that in the beginning stages. So the risk of fraud at the very end is very, very low and minuscule. And so all the way, putting that at every single phase in their workflow, I mean, that just makes it a game changer, not only for them, but it allows us to give a full and complete risk analysis for that lender to make the best decision. And that's one thing I do want to clarify too, because we do have a lot of misconception sometimes when I talk to lenders is
Mm-hmm.
that we're holding funds or we're distributing. We don't hold or distribute any funds. We are essentially your total risk analysis for fraud on a deal. And then we pass that, our analysis or your evidence for you to analyze and let your underwriter basically make that final determination on whether they want to proceed with this borrow and that deal.
Yeah, that makes sense. Speaking of lenders and traction, like, can you share a little bit more about, because I know you have good traction going, and where you are at the moment with traction?
Yeah. So man, I've gotten a lot of good traction specifically from integration partners. We have integrated recently with Business Screen. They focus on the due diligence of a borrower, but also they do due diligence in other aspects for like the contractors, VCs and their syndicates. And what I mean by due diligence is they're running like background checks essentially. Hey, is this a risky borrower? Is this a risky contractor? Do they have any civil or criminal liability, litigation going on? Are they on the global watch list? They're running those type of checks. And so by having them as an integration partner, that allows us to get into that phase of the roadmap that I'm trying to get on, right? Is the buyer identity and verification at the beginning phases. That will allow us to do that. A couple of other people that we're speaking to right now, I don't know if I could say the name on camera, but it's a pretty large lender, and they did 30,000 loans last year. And so they're very heavy in the private lending sector, and that's going to be like a lending partner. We have another one with an LOS software, Liquid Logics. We're talking with them right now. And we've already had a verbal agreement to start integration. We just got to get everything finalized and on paper. And that's kind of like the roadmap. It's kind of like the roadmap's all hitting, right? All those partners I wanted to get. And then Lend API, Timothy Lee over there, he's basically got a huge marketplace for different companies. He's putting us on that marketplace and just really making a lot of headway, right? So we're gaining from our current lender partnerships that we have. We're getting a lot of evidence. They're submitting a lot of photos and videos, documents. We have risk analysis that we'll be running on the backside and feeding that data to them, but also internally for us, it allows us to give data for the industry. Because if you don't know about private lending, they're not regulated by the government at all. So just to give you kind of an example of how it is, if I'm a private lender and, we have it out there that, hey, we had fraud on one of our loans, that could be huge and impactful for their business. A borrower is not going to want to go to them because they might see them as, hey, they had fraud. And then you're going to have your institutional buyers who fund their loans who are not going to want to do business with them because there's a potential they could lose their money. And so I think that scares a lot of people in this industry to share those insights. But I think it's extremely important that we get that because we can wake people up, wake these lenders up to, hey, this is happening in the industry, whether you like it or not. And my abilities. So I'm serving as on the fraud steering committee for American Association of Private Lenders. And one of my goals is for LendlyX to generate this kind of data so we can share it with American Association of Private Lenders, the data. But we're not going to say, hey, this is the company that has it, right? We're not sitting here trying to call people out. We're just saying, hey, this is what's happening. And we need to get ahead of it before this ruins the whole industry, because they already had an incident in Baltimore where you had, all kinds of stuff coming out for title and warranty deeds being manipulated. You had wire fraud. We have all these different things that are going on in the industry that we need to get ahead of.
Yeah. Well, congratulations on the traction and what you're building. I think it's awesome. And it's great to see the traction and the partnership that you already made along the way early on in the process of building this.
Yeah.
Just curious about what's next for you and LendlyX. Anything coming out or new versions coming out that you're excited about in the immediate term, like in the next 6 months or a year?
Yeah. So we do have a couple of new product releases coming out. So we haven't officially launched the document intelligence, but that's been in like the beta stage right now. But we're going to be launching that here in the next couple of weeks. And then I've been working on doing some integrations with title companies and also with inspection companies. And so the benefits to that, there's a lot of warranties that people are just making up. Hey, we have a warranty deed on this home and it doesn't actually exist, or it's in somebody else's name. We're going to try to cut down on that by partnering with the title company. And then on the inspection side, inspection companies take pictures every day. That's their job, right? But, are they getting the evidence and the actual authentication verification from that data from the picture they are taking? They don't have that to provide. They can say, hey, here's the property, the condition, here's all the rooms, here's all the siding, here's all the flooring, but they don't have like timestamps, like who actually took it, what device did it come from, or, is this inspection company working with the borrower or the realtor to just make a sale? We don't know that information. So by us partnering with the inspection company, it kind of reduces or totally eliminates that issue from ever happening. Now, is there going to be, false positives or false negatives that happen? Absolutely. But I'd rather be on the safe side and say, hey, let's catch it first and hey, flag it for a manual review than just letting something go. So I'm going to be more strict and stringent on our security features and our flagging so that we do capture, even if it's a tiny little thing, hey, let's flag it for manual review so that this doesn't happen.
I think it's really great. So last question before we wrap up. If a founder who's just starting out is watching this right now, what would be the one thing that you tell them that nobody told you, or advice that you can share with them that you wish someone advised you in the past?
Man, I would say don't listen to the outside noise.
That's a good advice.
There's so many people, and I hear all the time, like even my family, they're like, I don't know how you do what you do. My mom and dad in particular, like I feel like my dad's like kind of understanding because I'm older now and I've done it, right? I've done it previously. I've sold companies. But even to this day, my mom still can understand. Why don't you just go get a job and go get a salary? Like get a salary and be stable. I'm like, no, like I'm meant for bigger and better things. Like that's just not me. We're not in that generation anymore. And so I would wrap up with, man, like don't listen to the outside noise. Like if this is something you want to do, and I will say you have to give it 150%. Like,
absolutely,
there's going to be blood, sweat, and tears, man. So you got to go out and get it.
I think that's a great advice, and I would absolutely 100% agree. And not to say anything about the stability, I think we're in a different world and times and generation now that the stability is technically, it's showing more and more that it's a fake stability, not really real stability. So if you have passion for something, you want to build something, go at least and try it.
Absolutely.
Thank you so much for sharing all that with us. It's been really a pleasure. For anyone who wants to learn more about LendlyX, like where do they find you and find LendlyX?
Yeah, so you can go to our website at lendlyx.com, or you can find us on any social media platform, pretty much linkedin.com, /company/LendlyX, or any of the other socials. We're there.
Right. Well, thank you so much for coming and talking to me today. Appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks, Abdalla.
Thank you so much for everyone who is watching. Please subscribe for more insights and stories, and we'll see you in the next one on the Founder Shop Talk. Thank you.